Tell me exactly what's happened.
I just had a 12-year-old boy show up here at my front door asking for help. He's emaciated, he's got tape around his legs, he's hungry, and he's thirsty. He has duct tape around each ankle. He's obviously covered in wounds.
In late August of 2023, in the Red Rock Valley of Ivins, Utah, a 12-year-old boy rings his neighbor's doorbell, but he isn't there to mow the lawn or to raise money for his basketball team. This kid is fleeing for his life. The child was barefoot, completely emaciated, and was bound by duct tape around his wrists and ankles. But this was merely the initial evidence of the horrors he had endured, treatment the world would learn his younger sister had also experienced.
I began asking R, hey, do you have a little brother? He said no. I have a younger sister there, 9-year-old, and he said she had a shaved head. And I said, when's the last time you saw her? And he said it's been over a month.
Who could possibly be responsible for inflicting this type of evil on children? The story of Ruby Franke is objectively a sickening and fascinating one, as recently documented in a Hulu docuseries. But what if it can also tell us a lot about how cults work in the wild, and dare us to ask the question, are abusive families just basically cults too? Ruby Franke began as just another Mormon momfluencer in 2015, sharing slice-of-life videos 5 days a week about her professor husband Kevin, and their 6 kids on their YouTube channel called 8 Passengers. By her own husband's account, she openly craved attention and validation she received. By 2020, her channel had over 2.5 million subscribers, and videos of her kids playing in the park, saying prayers, and climbing out of their crib had amassed over 1 billion views. But it was around this point when things started to take a weird turn. Ruby's posts had been growing increasingly personal, divulging intimate information about her children's experience with puberty and mental health struggles. Unfortunately, that's pretty common fare for family vloggers, who operate in a wild west where seminal childhood experiences, good and bad, become fodder to feed an ever-famished algorithm. But Ruby started to seem like a different beast entirely, especially the day she posted a video discussing their family style of discipline. In this video, her second oldest child, Chad, described being banished from his own bedroom and forced to sleep on a beanbag in the basement for 7 months.
My bedroom was taken away for 7 months, and then you give it back like a couple weeks ago.
I don't think our viewers know that.
You've been sleeping on a beanbag.
I've been sleeping on a beanbag since October, and they gave my room back like 2 weeks ago.
If you think it's funny, then that was 7 months ago. Maybe you need longer without a bedroom.
It was not funny.
Worried viewers also pointed to another clip in which Ruby discusses sending her youngest daughter E to kindergarten without lunch because she had failed to prepare her own food.
Got a text message from Eve's teacher, and she said that Eve did not pack a lunch today, and can I bring a lunch over to the school? This happens quite often when you're raising children. I know that her teacher is uncomfortable with her being hungry and not having a lunch, and it would ease her discomfort if I came to the school with a lunch. But I responded and just said Eve is responsible for making her lunches in the morning, so the natural outcome is she's just going to need to be hungry. Hopefully nobody gives her food.
The backlash was immediate. To make matters more concerning, Ruby regularly referenced the discipline that took place off-screen.
They lose the privilege of privacy. Why? Because they're not concerned about privacy. That is the last thing they're concerned about. They're just trying to hold that word over your head. No. In this home, you don't get personal space.
And some of these parenting isms, these cultural isms that have contaminated parenting are things like beliefs that it's my job to make my kids happy.
Give them a magical childhood.
It's my job to give my child a magical childhood. It's my job to make my children smile and laugh.
The camera's rolling, so I can't get that mad. It helps keep me under control.
Speculation about what that entailed led some viewers to launch Change.org petitions advocating that the children be removed from Ruby's increasingly suspect care. The recent docuseries shows that they were right to worry. Never-before-seen footage that incidentally didn't make it to the carefully curated channel round out a chilling portrait of a deeply controlling and cruel mother. A mother that's verbally and physically abusive. In one video, she covers her daughter's mouth forcefully to quiet her down during a recording. In another, she threatens to behead a beloved stuffed animal.
If you cut one more thing in my house, I'm going to take the scissors, look at me, and I'm going to cut its head off.
Grandma will be so mad.
So what are you going to do?
Incidentally, most of the conflict depicted is a direct result of one of the children ruining Ruby's artistic vision for one of her vlogs. It also reflects the Franke children's open hostility to being family vloggers, an obligation their parents referred to as their job. As the kids grew older, they became increasingly less accommodating of Ruby's rigorous filming schedule, and Ruby panicked. Ruby's one of an ever-growing horde of Mormon mothers documenting their families in copious detail. While the dominance of this small demographic over the influencer space feels kind of random, it's really not. The Mormon faith openly espouses a mindset that every man is a missionary. Showing your happy Mormon life online, subtly or not so subtly, can function as a form of evangelism. Journalist Jana Reese told NPR that Mormons have long been told to document their lives in great detail because angels in heaven would be reading their journals someday. So, vlogging seems like the logical progression of that for the digital age. As far back as 2007, Mormon leaders were explicitly instructing their flocks to take to social media to promote their faith. Another aspect of Mormonism that makes it ripe for online depictions is the quest for perfection. Researchers who examined several studies found an emerging consensus that religious perfectionism is particularly prevalent among Mormons. The Mormon faith teaches that human beings, with hard work and very specific undergarments, can reach a level of perfection where, in the afterlife, they actually become gods. That's a pretty good incentive to complete your morning routine and do all of your chores. It's also very compatible with the social media mandate that we all experience, the need to present an image of complete flawlessness, and Ruby was acutely aware of this need. One particularly uncomfortable scene shows her scolding her oldest son for not displaying sufficient enthusiasm.
Hey, if I hear one more word, get out. If I'm gonna let you, I don't vlog, and if I'm gonna spend all my time helping you, you're gonna help me too. Be excited to tell them where your name came from, even if you have to fake it. Fake being happy. Okay?
Ruby was truly ruthless in her quest to document the life of a perfect Mormon family. Speaking of the pursuit of perfection, enter Jodi Hildebrandt, a mental health counselor and the other half of this story. Well regarded in the Mormon community, the entrepreneurial Hildebrandt had a counseling business called Connections, which provided group therapy. Incidentally, group therapy also allows for much greater profits than individual sessions ever could. Her group lessons, according to NBC, were centered around the idea that most people live in a state of distortion, in which our wants and needs compromise our dedication to truth. But with hard work, we can overcome our distortions and reach a higher plane of existence. Though many saw her as a guru, there were plenty of reasons to be skeptical of Jodi long before she ever entered the Franke's lives. She diagnosed nearly every man she treated with a sex or porn addiction, railing against the supposedly innate male drive for lust. In tandem, she diagnosed just about every woman with control addiction, and even diagnosed a child with an addiction to lying. To be clear, none of these conditions are listed in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. Former patients have also described the way they were forced to share their most intimate sexual deviances with other members of the group, and some talked about being kicked out of their homes or not being allowed to have sex for months if they sinned by watching pornography. Hildebrandt allegedly isolated patients from their spouses and loved ones, telling them to cut off anybody who didn't seek the truth, an accusation that will become horrifyingly relevant to this story.
Husbands were separated from their families for so long, they were considering suicide.
They felt so sick and like such a failure that they just felt like they shouldn't be here anymore. Started to feel more and more evil.
Hildebrandt also had her license briefly suspended for divulging personal information about clients to the Mormon church leadership.
Adam Steed has come forward, identifying himself as the person who was at the center of Jodi's license suspension in 2012.
I was sent to Jodi Hildebrandt.
Yeah.
With me and my wife together.
Adam said Jodi destroyed his marriage, life, and career ambitions due to her actions that led to his dismissal from BYU, the private university operated by his church.
It's worth noting here that at least 2 of Hildebrandt's former clients have been reporting her ethical and legal misconduct since way back in 2008. Over the span of 4 years, they notified the Mormon church's flagship, Brigham Young University, as well as the church's social service agency and its legal team. Still, congregants allege that the church's bishops continue to recommend Jodi's program and even paid some of her $2,000 to $3,000 monthly fees for members' counseling. Though the church eventually removed her from their list of recommended counselors, the Salt Lake Tribune found that much of her business growth continued to come from church leaders' referrals.
Bryce Della Rippet was advised by his bishop as recently as 2021 to go see Jodi Hildebrandt for counseling services.
It upsets me because I know that she has affected a lot of marriages and they've come to an end because of her.
But most chillingly, she was reported for child abuse by her niece, who described similar treatment to what the Frankies would face. In the docuseries, Chad Franke describes Hildebrandt's therapy as being relatively innocuous, even fun at first. But members of the community noted that Jodi has always been fame and power hungry, and Ruby's enormous public platform seems to have made her a pretty appealing ally. When Ruby's husband Kevin entered group therapy, Hildebrandt praised him as being superior to his sinful compatriots, and the Frankies' marriage, which was previously a bit rocky, actually started to thrive. Despite having a non-existent therapeutic background, Ruby trained with and became a counselor for Connections. As she and Hildebrandt grew closer, Ruby shut down 8 passengers, and together the pair launched a new channel called Moms of Truth, where they shared parenting advice.
Our job is to educate you. Those principles come from that higher source, that energy I call God.
Truly terrifying if you know what comes later.
The things that we show and share and the things that many of you are criticizing and calling abuse are actually things that mental health professionals have counseled us to do.
Eventually, and most bizarrely, Hildebrandt moved into the Frankies' family home, taking over the bedroom of the eldest daughter, Sherry, who is away at college. Sherry describes returning to her room and finding what felt like a honeymoon suite, complete with candles and massage oil. Unsurprisingly, she contends that her mom and Jodi Hildebrandt had a romantic relationship, but it wasn't all massage oil and Instagram posts. Things were turning dark and fast. Ruby's videos clearly detail her obsession with the notion that her children's bad behavior was caused by demonic possession, which needed to be violently stamped out. Meanwhile, Kevin contends that Hildebrandt would regularly go into possession mode and talk in different voices, and Kevin was tasked with doing these exorcisms. Footage supporting this claim appears in the docuseries.
Weird things started happening in our house. Jodi would go into these possessed trances.
She knows.
Eventually, when a 17-year-old Chad Franke confessed to making out with a girl, Ruby declared that his devilish impulses were the reason for Hildebrandt's possession and forced 17-year-old Chad to move out of the house. Kevin describes the way Hildebrandt turned on him as well, starting to call him out as the embodiment of evil in the group therapy sessions. Eventually, Ruby also told Kevin to move out and cut off all contact with their children. Kevin claims he complied because he was so desperate not to lose Ruby, which he knew would require winning Hildebrandt's approval. Listening to Kevin and Chad's interviews feels a little bit like going through a looking glass. Both of them believed heavily in Hildebrandt's teachings, and both of them believed that they were evil and needed to be reformed. But unfortunately, neither of them realized, until they had the benefit of hindsight, what Jodi and Ruby were actually doing, turning their family into a cult. 'Cult. Charles Manson was way more astute than he realized when he called his own cult the family. In his article, How a Dysfunctional Family Functions Like a Cult, psychologist Dr. Jose Fernandez Aguado details the extensive overlaps between dysfunctional families and cults. Both are based around perversions of trust, in which relationships are centered not around mutual trust and respect, but around control. And in both cases, members have been persuaded that the person in charge, or the controller, is more knowing or deserving or powerful, and that not obeying them comes with severe consequences. Like how Ruby's children have to perform on camera to please her, or else their favorite stuffed teddy will be sent to the guillotine. Dr. Aguado notes, cults and dysfunctional families systemically make their members weaker. In both contexts, members' autonomy, critical thinking, identity, and dignity are suppressed or distorted to serve the needs of those in control. They do this in a few ways. They doggedly destroy all boundaries, like not letting your kid have a bedroom to sleep in, or forcing your kids to document every single life experience on camera, or even forcing your patients to share intimate details about their life in group therapy. They create and enforce very strict rules, like you make your own lunch for kindergarten or you don't get to eat. According to cult survivor Fleur Brown, another characteristic of cult life is the absence of authentic self-expression. Cults have a powerful, unifying monoculture, like how Chad was forced to perform the excitement Ruby wanted her family to embody, and the way Hildebrandt's clients were forced to cut off anybody who didn't conform to her own worldview. The result of these tactics is that those who don't control the group internalize the idea that their judgment is somehow less credible than the person controlling them, and that the person controlling them is doing so out of benevolence. We can see this reflected in the way Chad and Kevin describe genuinely believing that what Ruby and Jodi Hildebrandt were doing to the children was meant to help them.
Looking back, I treated her as a god, and I trusted her so much.
Kevin says Jodi and Ruby insisted he move out and cut off contact with his family to work on his addiction to selfishness.
Do you still love her?
I do. I don't think I'll ever stop loving her.
And that is complete and total brainwashing. When Jodi and Ruby became attached at the hip, it resulted in this weird, culty Russian nesting doll. Ruby had this cult-like control over her family, and Jodi had this cult-like control over Ruby and her family. And this cultish family dynamic that ensued is beyond shocking. The details of what happened in that suburban Utah home are truly sickening. Jodi and Ruby decided that the youngest two children were possessed by multiple demons and kept the children in concentration camp-like conditions.
Ropes were used to tie two sets of handcuffs together so his arms and lower legs were lifted off the ground. He was also tied to an adult, or even weights.
They were also forced to do hard manual labor outdoors in extreme Utah heat, all in hopes that the extreme conditions would stamp the demons out of them. Ruby kept detailed notes and journals of the abuse in a folder by her bed, and she calmly recorded appalling accounts of violence.
The children's names are referred to by letter, so July 10th, it's R's birthday. He doesn't even know what month it is. E and R have been in so much deviant behavior, they won't control their bodily functions. They are both furious. Their selfish, sinful lifestyle is being intervened upon. I told R he emulates a snake. He slithers. He sneaks around looking for opportunities when no one is watching. If he wants to emulate the Savior, he needs to be 100% obedient. I told R he needs to find God. I invited him to fast and pray. R is in and out of possession.
Even after her arrest, Ruby's comments indicated that she still truly believed she was doing good work by forcing the demons out of her children. Ruby Franke and Jodi Hildebrandt were both found guilty of felony child abuse, and both received maximum sentences that could see them behind bars for up to 30 years. At her sentencing, Ruby said that she truly believed she was helping her children because under Hildebrandt's guidance, she had been, quote, led to believe that the world was an evil place filled with children who need abuse. What's fascinating about this case is the way that Ruby Franke needed to control and perfect her family, initially as a performance for social media, but eventually as a perverted religious goal in order to fend off the devil. That control was further weaponized by the manipulative and clearly deranged Hildebrandt, and together it was taken to the worst kind of extremes. All of this shows that the quest for perfection, whether it's religious or otherwise, can actually be very dangerous. The vast majority of momfluencers will never do anything as heinous as what Ruby Franke did to her children. But her case reflects how the quest for social media glory, especially among family vloggers, can be part and parcel with at least a slightly unhealthy degree of asserting control over children. The pain caused by Ruby's original sin of using her family for content is evidenced by her daughter Sherry's advocacy for stricter government regulation on family vlogging. Last October, she told Utah's Business and Labor Committee,
"I don't come today as the daughter of a felon, nor as a victim of an abnormally abusive mother. I come today as a victim of family vlogging. But I want to be clear that there is never, ever a good reason for posting your children online for money or fame. There is no such thing as a moral or ethical family vlogger."
Other members of the Franke family also addressed lawmakers in support of Utah House Bill 322, which would require the parents of children featured in family vlogs to put 15% of their child's income in a trust. Thanks in part to the Franke's emotional testimony, including that of the family's youngest daughter, the bill passed the committee just 2 days before I recorded this video. But as long as there's a demand to watch cute kids or families online, there's going to be children doing performative labor for family vlogs. Hopefully the Franke story can at least be a cautionary tale of what's really going on behind the scenes of cheerful family videos, because it's not always heartwarming content. I do want to add that back when this case first broke, I covered this story very, very extensively. In fact, those were my first videos ever posted on YouTube. I was also invited onto other YouTube channels much bigger than mine to speak about the case, and because of my obsession with this case, I was also featured in the Peacock documentary Abused by Mom, the Ruby Franke Scandal, which was released on Peacock last year.
I have been a masterful manipulator. I have manipulated using sex. I've manipulated using external rewards. I have wanted something and I'm going to get it no matter.
Hey,